convey my compliments as well as my thanks to General Vinod Bhatia and General Ravi Arora from the Center for Joint Warfare Studies for having taken this initiative of organizing such a wonderful webinar for military health care. It is not very often that you are a part of such a wonderfully organized webinar and using technology for the first time to reach out to the maximum people possible, which is also the aim for combat maximum support with the minimum resources. So thank you very much. I was there for the first session and it was very encouraging for me and very heartening for me to hear to General Vinod Bhatia sir for his lovely words for the Armed Forces Medical Services. I have laid down my uniform, but I'm very proud of the Armed Forces Medical Services and the way they have carried forward. I cannot have put it in better words than what Sir had put it in his opening address. Sir, thank you very much for the confidence that you bestow on the Armed Forces Medical Services. And I am sure that the Armed Forces Medical Services will never let down their clientele in discharge of their duties. Coming to today's session, I must say that my first thanks are to those soldiers, to air warriors, and to those sailors who lay down their lives in front of the hostile environment that they face just for maintaining the sea, air, and the territorial integrity of our country. So my salute to them and hats off to those soldiers, without which we all cannot be there as medical providers. We exist for our soldiers and for our airmen and for our as well as for our sailors. Having said that, I would like to say that this session is exceedingly important because it focuses on very important aspect of combat health care. And I'm very grateful to the organizer for coining a new term. Right from my medical officer basic command course, I have been taught of combat medical support. But today I heard combat health care. And that is a very important terminology because in combat, we think and we always say the goal is to save life and limb. But when we talk of combat health care, our goal becomes not only to save life and live during combat, but our goal becomes to conserve the fighting strength of the armed forces by preventing diseases, by promoting health, both physical, mental, and social health, which has been brought out in the first session again by none other than General Bhatia sir. So, this terminology is excellent. Now, the aim of today's session is to expose everybody not to the basic concepts of combat healthcare, which I know everybody is aware, but what are the protocols that we must follow for providing combat healthcare to our troops who are engaged in various forms of combat in the front lines. And to do that, we have several expert speakers here with us. But before I hand over to the speakers, I must say that important principle of combat healthcare. I'm not talking about the goal of combat healthcare. I'm talking of the important principle of combat healthcare. And that principle of combat healthcare is to perform the correct intervention at the correct time in the entire continuum of the combat care. So correct intervention at the correct time. Secondly, you must know that we should try to minimize the preventable causes of death during combat. And the preventable causes of death are hemorrhage from extremity wounds, 60%, 33% are because of tension pneumothorax, and 6% are because of airway obstruction due to maxillofacial trauma. So these are the two basic principles, and to achieve our goals and this principle, we have to repeatedly train and retrain our battlefield nursing assistants, our nursing assistants, and our young medical officers and the young specialist officers. And to train on what? What are we going to train them on? They know combat medical support system, but we are going to today train them on the concept of combat health care, on the concept of existing and emerging protocols for taking care of the combat casualties and the troops deployed in combat. And finally, to make proper use of appropriate technology to reach out to our troops to provide that type of care. We all know the concept of combat health care. We know that we have got what we call very popularly, this used to be called A, B, C, D. I call it C, A, B, C, D, E. And where C stands for control of hemorrhage, first thing. C stands for control of hemorrhage. A stands for maintaining airway. B stands for restoring breathing. C stands for maintaining circulation. D stands for giving drugs like analgesics and antibiotics. And E stands for swift and safe evacuation. So if we understand CABCD, the concept of combat healthcare is known to us. More important, we require health intelligence during combat medical support. We require health promotion, and we require health intelligence to predict the ensuing diseases that are likely to afflict our soldiers during combat. And how can we do that? We can do that by use of technology. And how to reach out to the young medical officer who sometimes undergoes brain freeze. This is a new terminology which I am exposing to all of you. It is not what Steve Smith had when we refer to the third umpire. That was not brain freeze. The actual brain freeze occurs in combat when the young medical officer sees a bleeding casualty in front of him. He just gets flustered. And that is the time when mobile technology helps him to come out of that brain freeze. And to deal with that mobile technology, to deal with the use of telemedicine, we have none other than Lieutenant General Madhuri Kanetkar here with us, AVSM, BSM, maybe after some time I'll put another prefix of PVSM also, and BSIDS Med, who is the right person to take us through the journey of use of mobile technology, telemedicine, the way forward for the armed forces as an emerging protocol and technology for providing healthcare in combat.
Thank you very much, sir. At the outset, I thank Air Marshal Pawan Kapoor, for whom I have the highest regard, and I feel it an honor that you're chairing my session today. I'd like to thank General Bhatia and General Arora for putting this excellent opportunity. And we know we have arrived at the technology forum when we start having a seminar like this, where we have walked into a conference and have all the facilities virtual. So my compliments to the team which has put this together as well. And with that, I would like to start sharing. So I would start with that. Thank you so much. So I would like to address telemedicine, and I'm not saying is it, I've said this is the way forward, because this is one of the most fast outreaching and to stay with us technology. And this being a mandate of the DSIDS Med, I think the two have met each other in correct time frame. I'd like to start by quoting General Norman Schwarzkopf of the US Army, who says, "The more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war." So I think this technology has to be stabilized and made available in peacetime to be able to act when that brain wants to freeze. And I think another quote I'd like to say is that it's said that God could not be everywhere, so he made mothers. And I think doctors could not be everywhere, so they got technology. So with that background, I feel we need to address, when we're looking at technology in healthcare, what are we trying to resolve? And I've taken this from the National Digital Health Mission, that firstly, citizens need to have access to all they have to have and ownership of all kinds of data. They need to know about the doctor, which today we have not been able to reach out to the patients. The hospital, labs and doctors don't have access to patients' medical history, ability to ensure follow-up, and features to remotely consult patients, and also should have ease of doing business. And what about the policy makers and program managers? They have to have sufficient information about what kind of problems are coming up, whether it's in peace or in combat, and have to have a complete monitoring and control in a unified manner. And with that, I had an opportunity to share some of my views being a member of the Prime Minister's Scientific Technical Advisory Committee. And one of the first presentations I got to make, I was on use of innovation and technology for a national vision. And even before we could really look at the National Digital Health Mission, we felt that what we need to stress on is electronic health records, telemedicines, GIS mapping, app-based healthcare delivery systems, and skilling of the Indian, because we have doctors, but we don't have skilled paramedics. And in all this, I think technology is the way forward. And of course, the POC devices, and in therapeutics, we would need to have a lot of issues. What is the National Digital Health Mission design? I think it has basically for healthcare providers, and that requires a lot of platforms, and that is a huge scope for industry to really take it on, whether it's the LIS or the HIS. And what the consumers are looking of are for accessing this healthcare easily from the confines of your home and your digital phone. And we are sitting on this verge where 15th of August, it is expected that this huge system is going to be launched on a mobile app and a web portal, which would ensure that health IDs, electronic health records, a health professional registry, health facilities, and an e-pharmacy. So all this is going to be launched, and I think it is time for the armed forces to come up with being at par with what's happening with the nation, if not ahead of it. So what I see a huge opportunity for industry and the fraternity to join hands, because we have a vision. We already have a vision of a 5 trillion economy by 2025, of which 1 trillion is in manufacturing, and the healthcare system is going to be a huge platform. There is also a clarion call for an Atmanirbhar Bharat, and we have belief that we can do it. And therefore, I think it is time for action, because healthcare is on the verge of a revolution. So I'll cover it as a little outline of the history of telemedicine, what is the need in the armed forces, so nodes that we already have, way forward of our own portal we've created, a little bit on health technology assessment and our own experience, and then what is the quality initiative proposal and the future in both combat and peace. So in the history, well, it goes back to way back in 1924 when the radio was first used, showing a doctor conducting a patient encounter. And I won't read through all this, but what was interesting was fallouts of NASA, which used it to monitor physiological functions for astronauts in space. And again, they used it in a huge earthquake in Armenia. But what changed the entire thing was a game changer, was the WWW, the World Wide Web. With it came the internet availability, access, and of course, along with that, for the defense, the security problems. And I think what really propelled us into it without whether we were prepared or not was this corona, which coronated us. And we would have never thought of using this web, but we've learned it overnight how to get onto an e-platform. So the time is now. So therefore, I think I do not need to reinforce the need for telemedicine, where the mandate of the armed forces is to provide the cover under all circumstances, from the heights of the Siachen Glacier to the deserts, to the sort of marine, out at sea, on the air, in every situation. And look at the magnitude. We have a 1.3 million personnel who are serving and 5.3 million dependents besides the ex-servicemen. What do we already have? Well, my predecessors have thought about this, and I've taken over 81 ISRO telemedicine nodes which are functioning with the nerve or the brain or the activity center at the IDS. What was different about these and what we now need to know is these ISRO nodes are not patient-centric, they're doctor-centric. They are for a doctor when he has a freeze or needs expertise to consult. But today we need to get to the home, to the doorstep of the patient, and patient needs to have an access. Therefore, we are looking at more patient-centric facilities. And the other thing was there was an absence of statutory basis which brought ambiguity, and there were Supreme Court cases, ethical problems of giving telephonic consultations. But Even while that was there, we started with the DRDO Debel radio sets, which were the first ones used in the armed forces. And these are what the ISRO telenodes and my predecessor, Narayanan sir, had taken this with great effort, even up to the Siachen posts. Now these, when as an opportunity, having served in Northern Command as the MG Med, I thought, why not look at the health technology assessment using those tools to see how effective it is. And in the next 2-3 slides, I would like to show you that we had a large number of telemedicine consults, cases managed on site were 34% and cases evacuated after consultation were 66%. So this is something very important what our chairperson said, that when a young MO needs to be given the support and confidence, this really comes in. And besides that, there were case discussions, clinical meetings. And when we looked at the cost analysis, for every rupee spent on telemedicine, 32.16 is gained per CASIVAC by air. And I think this is something so important. But besides this, look at the qualitative. There was faster decision making, improved pre-hospital care, improved CASI-EVAC, staying updated, and confidence building. I mean, there are some things you can't put a cost to it, but this is something phenomenal. So I don't think I need anything more to convince. What has changed since then? Well, the legal framework is now in place. Telemedicine practice guidelines were notified by the government by the Gazette of India on 14th May 2020, providing a legal and ethical framework. The guidelines for AFMS based on the same have already been prepared. By 28th May, we were ready. The second thing that happened was a free countrywide portal was launched by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, keeping the corona crisis in view. And this really facilitated, and a tweet by the Prime Minister showed that the reduction in footfall to healthcare centers was down by 67% based on accessing teleconsultations. And therefore, when we analyzed what telemedicine could do for the armed forces, majority of the visits are for minor illnesses, continuation of medicines, opinions, and in these corona times, people are scared to really go out. And so with that in mind, in record time of 20 days, the Sehat portal was conceived and launched. And this is what our portal looks like, which is a collaborative initiative between the Office of DG AFMS, the 3 services, and the headquarter IDS. And if you see, I would like to point out that it is not just corona changed our thought processes, but it also changed the process of ease of doing business. Whereas it was planned and the name decided on 10th May, we could go ahead with a trial run on 28th May. In 18 days, from inception to implementation. I think that is where digital age has taken us to. And we've already uploaded this is a proof of concept. And by August 10, we hope to roll out the complete plan and go on to an Android and iOS version. So this is how things work. This is what the platform looks like. And it's exactly like walking into an MI room with the complete queue management, and a prescription is generated which the patient can use to collect medicines from the nearest MI room. It also gives data and back-end records. So legally and ethically we are covered. The doctors have the thing, the administrators have real-time patient care and doctors. Patients can see the doctors online, and there's a real-time audio-visual consultation. What more can you have where a patient walks into this EMI room and is seen by the first available doctor in an average time of 2 minutes or 3 minutes? It's a holistic thing where we are training our medical officers, because any new technology requires training. We've tied up with the Telemedicine Society of India. Why I'm sharing this experience is that when we bring in technology, it is not about just procuring a technology. You have to see from procurement to implementation to an analysis of how it is changing lives. I think that completes the entire cycle. And we've already finished training 350 doctors over weekend webinars. So this is a picture of an ongoing webinar. And Therefore, I think whenever we take in new technology, and over the next this whole symposium, we're going to look at a lot of technologies. I would request all players to bring in some quality initiative methods and do it in a very scientific way using the PDSA cycle. So we are taking this Sehat into a new quality initiative of making it available for families and those at far places through implementation of by the people, for the women, by the women, of the women, and training Sehat Sakhis, women in the family accommodations, to access these portals, so that when they go back to the villages and in remote areas also, they will know how to use this facility on their smartphones. What are the plans for scaling up? And I think this is important because we are looking at app-based versions of for the Android and iOS, which would come in by the year end. Their pharmacy linkages, I think this is important, because finally, if we could also have a mechanism by which medicines could be delivered to the patient, this would be phenomenal. Investigations by appointment today, where they have to need to go for CT scans, MRIs, and a patient lands up going 2-3 times to the hospital. Why not just let him go and get his reports also online? A specialty consultation, we are planning a Sehat specialty. So there's a big scope for developing a new platform. And we've also requested the MDS ECHS to join in as ECHS Sehat. By the way, Sehat stands for Services E-Health Assistance and Teleconsultation. And the Sehat name was given by we were helped by an undergraduate from AFMC. So what are the combat requirements? When we look at combat requirements, we need secure methods to keep the troops connected, not just at their places. We have the ISRO nodes. We have now we've implemented this internet-based teleconsultation facilities, but in combat, we would also need to keep the troops connected at the far outposts, and we may not be able to use internet-based. So I think we would need to improve and use satellite communication-based and our own radio set communications through our ADN networks, where we would be able to do more than just reassure, but have large data transfers, look at ECGs, look at other such facilities which would give. And even more important is, we've heard in the morning about our echelon-based transport systems. So when we are moving patients from, say, a forward area, if the whole thing could be in an automated digital platform where a casualty occurring and an RMO requesting for evacuation, the whole action starts in motion, where the Hepter aviation base is told, where a flying squad is ready, they scoop, take the patient to the next. En route also, there is a real time. You don't have to keep ringing up to find out has the Hepter landed. So we have a time management where the ambulance moves forward, collects the patients, gets to the hospital, and a feedback goes back to the RMO. I mean, today it's so easily doable that we can have an SMS based, even using secure methods. We are using it for even using it in Corona. We've had the Arogya Setu. So there are so many methods. So I think this is a challenge, that if we can develop a continuum of care with a digital help, I think that would be excellent. We need to look at IoT. This is because, I mean, I was told there would be a lot of young intelligent brains and industry who are looking at this symposium. So I'm thinking that we need to have IoT technology using wearable devices for ease of monitoring and response to situations. And this is especially important for monitoring of personnel on patrols and far-flung posts. In the Northern Command, we have a lot of situations where there are sudden deaths, there are cold injuries. So can we bring in large data analytics? For large data analytics and AI to come in, we would need IoT and having wearable devices which pick up certain issues early, send in, and the red flag line, so the patient is evacuated before he collapses instead of after. So I think this is the forward, like I said, automated CASIVAC capabilities. What about drug and blood products? trials are being done, but I think we need to streamline and look at research to see the quality of the blood when taken through drones. We had problems in Northern Command taking it in, especially in 16 core area where they would have often events. So we need to look at these and have better quick delivery of blood and blood products, because like our chairperson said, hemorrhage is the first thing we need to this. The other issue where technology would come in is in GIS mapping and early warning systems to predict natural calamities. Every year we have avalanches, we have earthquakes, we have floods. So all these situations, if we could have good GIS mapping, having the layers, and this I think requires a sectorial understanding. Today we have a lot of technology, but we work in silos. And I think what is required is an ecosystem which integrates all these capabilities and brings it to the doorstep for better patient care. And the last is a supply chain and inventory management system. We have our own iAushadhi, but it requires a lot of this thing, and we've taken that after Sehat. That is our next challenge, and we are moving on to a better supply chain management and inventory management system. So this is something I would like to leave you with food for thought. And what is keeping this in mind, what is the tri-services roadmap that we have projected is requiring better software for our medical store supply chain management. We are looking at getting the Sehat super speciality model, a Sehat hub and spoke model from the paramedic to the medic. We are also working on that. And we are looking at accessing electronic health records. As was brought out in our first session, we have a system where the three services have secure data managed on their own networks. But we may not be able to share it all. But what we would need is randomization, automation in such a way that individual security and of personal data is maintained, but accessibility of his data. For example, if a patient has had an MRI scan in Delhi, but the next time he's in Bombay, he should be able to access it. That hospitals is based on, because it's his data, he should be able to access it, right? So we are looking at systems by which these electronic health records, which are maintained by hospitals, certain basic encrypted data is put up on the web, sort of on a server, from which he can access it anywhere in the country and make it available to his next doctor. So I think these are the way forwards, because if we have to implement the digital health mission, Armed Forces Medical Services with its structured clientele, with its absolute disciplined workforce, I think is the correct platform to showcase the digital health mission before it can really be rolled out into the country. And I think I would end with this. And what I request you to, for those of you who have your smartphones on, can I request you to please scan this and get on to the link, because I want to end it on a small poll for my interest. So I just request you to scan the site. I'll just give you about 10 seconds to do that, and then we'll go on to a poll, because this is the advantage of digital technology and the future, where I can get a direct feedback even when I'm not being able to see an audience. I mean, we are all used to talking to on a stage where there's the audience in front of you, and today I'm just talking to my own screen and thinking that you're all being able to see my slides and this. So therefore, I'd like to use this to get, and I hope you all are ready. So I will start the voting.
Madam, there are
Yes?
lots of command headquarters medical branches in which people are sitting 20, 30 to a room. So you'll have to give them a little more time.
Okay, I'll give them 10 more. I'll give them a 20, 30 seconds more, so that they can just scan this, and it leads you directly onto the onto my website, which I've created the poll, so that we'll have the voting immediately after that. And And those who finish can type out their questions for the moderator. Yes. So can you please vote for this on your phone as to which category you belong to? Only 9 people have voted, so should I wait for a little longer? I think people have not
Yes,
been
madam.
able.
Just wait.
Yes,
People
you
are
have to wait. Please,
Should I?
please wait a little longer.
Okay.
We'll have to
Should
scan
I?
it.
to get the hang of it.
Yeah. Should I go back to the this thing?
Request go back to the scanner.
Scanner. Okay. So I'll go
Yes.
back to the scanner. For those who've not scanned, please do scan it now so that you've understood it. The others can scan it.
Next time, madam, we will publicize this because when you told me last night, I had to download a scanning app.
Okay, but otherwise most of the smartphones, sir, you have to just open your camera and it scans it immediately and gives it to you.
Okay.
Interestingly, I used the same thing in another webinar 2 days back with medical students. I mean, this is how, we all need, why I want youngsters to come in large numbers, because they pick up technology so fast. There were 430 medical students and 383 in no time logged in and gave me a voting. It was so fast. So I think they are very savvy with digital technology, and the sooner we implement it and get in ideas from them and implement them in the armed forces, that's the future. So I'm going back to starting.
Yeah.
So if there are any more, okay, yes. Yeah, so fair enough. I mean, at least we've had an overview of a new technology that can be used. So we can, yeah, I've got about 17, which is also nice because it's good people are picking up, and it's really heartening to see that we have a spectrum of people from the armed forces, the medical service. There are equal number of veterans, industry. It's a spectrum of all, which is really nice. Thank you so much. So we go on to the next question. Yeah, it's open for voting. Please vote. Okay, thank you so much. So I'm 94% adequate. So it's a small sample size, but it's very heartening. Thanks a lot. And the next question. Wow, that's really nice. That I mean, no one think that it's difficult to implement. So there you go. The AFMS is all set because everyone agrees it's very easily doable. And I mean, I think that is so. There's no doubt in anyone's mind that this is the future. Oh wow. Oh, that's brilliant. So I think please do get in touch with us for a proof of concept on anything new that you can this, and we are open to it because I mean, there would be so many things which even we don't know that we need, but I'm sure we would benefit with all the inputs of great minds. Thank you so much. Yeah, and it's so heartening to see that the number of people who, some took a little time, but the number of votes and participants also increased down. So that again proves another point that any technology is not at all difficult. And if we just keep an open mind, more of us can join in. So with that, I think I would conclude. I think that's my last slide. Yes, and I would like to thank all the audience, my chairpersons, the organizers for giving me this opportunity to interact with you all. And this is my small team in the IDS who's working round the clock to bring in a lot of new ideas into AFMS. The logo of Sehat was helped by these postgraduate doctors. When I told them, give me a picture which shows, something which is modern, and all three services. So you see this, they're all smiling. One is the tablet, the stethoscope, and the phone. And this is Cadet Suyash who gave me the name Sehat. So nothing happens on your own. You have to move. If you want health and you want wellness, you have to move from an I to a we. So you just remove the I, add a WE, and illness goes away and wellness comes in. Thank you so much. I conclude.
Good afternoon, everyone. I feel like this batsman who has to come and bat after Virat Kohli has left.
I feel like a batsman coming back to Virat
Very
Kohli.
unfortunate situation to be in, but I will do my best to share my limited view. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, thank you for this great opportunity. My background is I am a bioengineer turned entrepreneur. 10 years back, I started this company. The idea was only one mission, that how do we stop people from dying from bleeding. So the topic today is about combat casualty management, and I think it's been a decade since I'm in this field. It's the first time I'm seeing so much focus on such an important topic, combat casualty care. So I really thank you all from the bottom of my heart to bringing the focus into military healthcare. And as part of industry, as part of entrepreneur startups, I think in India we have so much potential to bring in huge changes in technology to assist our soldiers and jawans to ensure that we do not have to be dependent on other countries for our military healthcare technology. So let me start by saying General Pawan Kapoor mentioned, we salute the soldiers for your bravery and valor. We are all here because of you. Our passion, our excitement is that if we can make a small change in helping you in your life, that itself is our mission for life. There is nothing beyond that. So let me start my presentation. It is about how do we look at new technologies and use them for stabilizing a soldier in a combat battlefield. So we are here to learn from you and also to share our brief experience working with armed forces across the globe. We are a 10-year-old company. We are having presence in about 28 countries. We work with almost 10 armed forces across the world, and we are very glad to share our learnings, our experience developing technologies for armed forces across the globe. Let me take a moment and start my presentation. I hope you can see my presentation. Can somebody confirm?
Yes, we can see.
Yes.
So my focus today is about novel and indigenous technologies to control life-threatening bleeding during combat. Here I would like to focus on indigenous. I will come to you why I am focusing on indigenous, because the requirement that Indian Armed Forces have is, I think, not comparable with any armed forces in the world, because the terrains we operate, the hostile environment our armed forces have in India is not comparable to any other armed forces. So you need solutions which are developed indigenously, which looks after all your requirements and is built very affordably, so that you are not dependent on any other country ever for military and healthcare and military, sorry. I'm sure all the audience here are well familiar with the type of combat injuries. The data I am following here is the data coming from global. So it is not specific only to India, but you might find some pattern in your own practice in India. So the battle injuries are about 61%, but non-battle injuries are equally large, it's about 40%. And the bulk of the battle injuries, as per global statistics, I've given a breakup here on the sample size for which this data was collected. The non-battle injuries, which often people underestimate, is a bulk of the casualties in most of the countries. I would love to have this data from Indian Armed Forces. Unfortunately, I couldn't get hold of that. But motor vehicle collision is about 21%, which is a very high number when you look at casualty in a non-combat, non-battle setting. 14% is falls. Then there are other injuries which comprises of the rest. Now, Dr. Pawan Kapoor, Lieutenant General Pawan Kapoor mentioned about ABC and his own version of how you can stabilize a bleeding soldier or an injured soldier. Often people underestimate that many of the injuries in battlefield may not lead to an instant death. The statistics say in the last 5 major wars which happened globally, 50% of all soldiers died due to uncontrolled bleeding, which is the highest cause of mortality amongst armed forces globally. Interestingly, 54% of those injuries were potentially survivable, which means given the right time and the right aid, we could have saved those lives who got injured on the battlefield. As per the US Army data, 87% of troops died before reaching a medical doctor or a surgeon. Even despite having these world-class medevac systems, US Army could only get about 13% of injured soldiers back to a medical facility and save their lives. What we can infer from this is how much ever good our medical evac system is, we still need our troops to be trained, equipped with life-saving technologies that they can use and save themselves or save their body. So combat battlefields require very rugged technologies that troops can carry themselves and help them in an unfortunate incident of an attack. When we look at hemorrhage or excessive bleeding, what does it mean? As per clinical evidence, if the body loses 40 milliliter of blood per minute, and if it continues for 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, then the body gets into a hemorrhagic shock. A hemorrhagic shock is nothing but body's physiological response to reduce the blood flow leaving the body. But what it means is when you have such a shock experience on a battlefield, the soldier becomes immobile and soldier becomes more of a target to the enemy firing or enemy attack. So as we often look at a sports analogy, offense is the best defense. But if you have to continue fighting, you have to be mobile. You cannot be immobile. So the reason why we need to focus on hemorrhage control is not only to save the lives of that one soldier, but to ensure that the soldier is mobile and is able to fight back. There are well laid out protocols on hemorrhage control. Thanks to many armed forces in the Western world, US Army has an entire division focused on hemorrhage control, and that is how much importance they give to bleeding control, because the lives that can be saved using these techniques and these technologies are priceless. Now, over a period of last 200 years of battlefield historical data, we now know that you can control the bulk of bleeding using direct pressure. You can control the even more bleeding using tourniquets. Now, tourniquets are interesting. It's a lifesaver if it is used instantly, but not for long term. So you can use it for a period of time before you can reach a medical facility, or else you may encounter that less blood flow to the extremities can render those extremities lifeless. What it means is tourniquets will eventually may lead to amputation of the limb. Hence, US Army has come up with solutions which I think Western armed forces are using, and we being in India, we can take some of these ideas and indigenize them. And what are those ideas? The ideas of controlling bleeding in an affordable, in a rugged terrain, which is minus 30 degrees or plus 60 degrees, is to have a combination of these products within the soldiers' armed forces first aid kit. And that is where we would like to introduce the technologies that we have developed and clinically validated over the last 10 years, and not just in India but globally. Let me talk a little bit more about those technologies. So I'm sure all the soldiers here are very familiar with tourniquets, first field dressings, and direct pressure. These are the techniques which have been tried and tested for many, many years, which we wouldn't ask anyone to change because they can save lives. All we are talking about is what can complement these procedures and help soldiers stabilize much more faster. Without the help of these products, it will be much more long term or longer. When I look at the evolution of hemostat, what is hemostat? Hemo means blood, stat means stop. So it's nothing but stopping blood. When you look at the evolution of hemostat, the gauze dressings or the first field dressings which we are using are at least 200 years old. The technology emerged in early, 1900s or 1800s. So it's a very old technology. It still works for a majority of cases. But over a period, there are many, many technologies that have come. But the globally accepted technologies for controlling excessive bleeding are only two materials. One is made from chitosan, which is a polymer extracted from shellfish, which carries a charge which is positive in nature, and that charge based action has found beneficial activity in controlling bleeding because blood carries a negative charge. This is a widely used technology with this material, and there is one more material which has been approved for use locally. There are no other materials which have proven to stop profuse bleeding which may continue and threaten the life of the individual. We would like to introduce the products we have developed indigenously in India. This was my work of last 10 years. I'm very proud that this entire products which we are showing today were developed in India using Indian scientists and Indian manpower and resources. We introduced to you Axiostat, which few of you may have been familiar with. The product you see on the side are the upgraded version of this. These are the only products made from India using chitosan because we were the pioneers of this technology. We brought this to India. We have a granted patent on this technology. This product is approved in about 35 countries now, including United States and Europe. More than 7 armed forces are using this right now to stop bleeding, including more than 250 battalions in India. So let me talk to you about how does this work. What you have here is a 100% chitosan based hemostatic gauze and a hemostatic patch. Both can be used depending on the situation. For any bleeding wound which is very deep, we recommend our hemostatic gauze, which comes in as a 7.6 centimeter into 300 centimeter in a Z-fold format. We have our 8 by 8 centimeter patch, which is the most widely used hemostat. It is extremely light, can be carried by anybody without adding weight to the individual first aid kit. It can be applied by using a single hand. You do not need anyone else to support you while you apply this. And the way it functions is very fast and instant. So when there is a bleeding wound, all you need to do is you take out the product from the pack. It's a very rugged military grade packing. You can push it into the bleeding wound and instantly the dressing will react with blood and form a very solid clot. The dressing can be left on the wound for 48 hours, and the beauty of this technology is it can be completely reversed a medical facility. We have improved the shelf life to have 5 years now. It comes as a critical component of IPAC, available in government marketplace in GEM. It also has a CDMS number. It's been widely procured, and we continue to support from using it for different applications like gunshot wounds. As you can see on the screen, it can be pushed into the entry wound, and using the gauze, you can cover the exit wound. You can use it for large explosive situations where there is a huge tissue loss. You can use multiple of this together without having any side effect. It's a very safe technology proven for almost 10 years using our manufacturing. We would love to take your questions on this. We have our demo arranged in our booth. You're free to visit us anytime for next 3 days. I hope you can see the video of how it functions with blood. What you see is a pound of flesh from a goat where you just apply with blood. We have a constant blood supply underneath, and you can see how a single piece of patch attaches itself to the pound of flesh, and it is so sticky and so adhesive that it will stop the bleeding instantly. And all you need to do is doing a saline irrigation or water, and the dressing being pH sensitive, it changes its physiology and you can remove it instantly without dislodging the clot. So we call this a bioadhesive technology. using our protonated polymer, and we have a granted patent for this. We are very glad to say that this is completely made in India and manufactured in India, supplying to almost 28 countries. In India, our experience started almost, I would say, about 6 to 7 years back. Over a period, we have been fortunate to serve more than 260 defense battalions in Jammu and Kashmir area, in the Naxal belt area, and across the country. We work with Marcos, we work with FMSC, DGMS, Para Commandos, NSG, Rashtriya Rifles, BSF, CRPF. So we have worked extensively to understand requirements from the armed forces, and we have tried to incorporate those into our R&D. They are supplied in these IF-8 kits. It goes inside this without any other additional weight added into the kit. It's extremely rugged. We were very fortunate and very proud that when we got to know from an interview by a soldier that they used AXISTAT during the surgical strike in 2016. There was one unfortunate situation, as it was reported in media, where a soldier stepped on a landmine and there was significant tissue loss and blood loss, and they used AXISTAT, which was in their first aid kit, to successfully stem the bleeding. We were also invited by Honorable Prime Minister to accompany him to the visit, to his first ever visit to Israel, where they introduced our defense technology to Israeli defense technologies. And we are proud to announce that since then we are working very closely with Israeli armed forces as well. They are evaluating our products alongside other US products that they had earlier. What we have been doing in last 5 to 6 years has been trying to understand the requirement from the armed forces and build it to our R&D so that we can come up with our new technologies suitable for Indian armed forces. We are very glad that we could organize more than 200 training programs across India to talk about combat casualty care, focusing on bleeding control. You may have been familiar with some products to help you understand what is the difference. As I said, the only two technologies approved by armed forces globally to control bleeding, which can lead to death, is one with chitosan and one with Cavarin zeolite. The difference in technologies are that one, the safety profile. The technology that we have perfected in India does not include impregnation. Impregnation of any active ingredient may lead to those active ingredients flaking off from the gauze and getting into bloodstream, which causes severe heat. Also, it causes clots, which we call as distal emboli. So, to avoid such complications, the Indian technology that we have, AXISTAT, does not have any impregnation. So it is 100% chitosan, hemostat, and gauze. The only technology in the world who can make 100% chitosan gauze is our company in India. It's fully made in India, in Gujarat. We have an ISO and FDA approved facility which does this. We have supplied more than 1 million units globally. More than 100,000, 1 lakh units we supply to only armed forces in India and other countries. We have multiple patents, 6 clinical publications, and we have a very strong team that constantly look at developing more and more technologies for Indian armed forces. It's proudly made in India. We have a world-class facility in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad, with a very in-house R&D team with more than 15 scientists, many postdocs, working constantly to improve new technologies which can be affordably made in India. Our current capacity is 1 million units. In a wartime, we can extend that to 5 million units. So we are fully equipped to supply more than 100,000 units in a short notice of 45 days. And we are also glad to say that this product is approved by US FDA. It's India's first US FDA approved wound care product and the only product since then. So we take quality very seriously. We ensure that our product which goes to soldiers should be of supreme quality, because compromising on quality can lead to a death even on the battlefield, which we would like India to never compromise on quality when it comes to military goods. Snapshot of our team, very experienced team from the industry. We've been working very hard to build novel and indigenous technologies of high quality. We work with two large institutions in the US, which is Harvard, fine-tune our technology and validate clinically to ensure that the product is safe and efficient for use on the combat battlefield. We also have a product range made of chitosan for even post-care. So we have a wound care range which helps in healing of the wound without causing scars. The scarless healing using Maxiocell is what we recommend post the usage of controlling bleeding. For long-term use, we recommend our wound care product portfolio. Multiple clinical studies have been done. All the data is on record with us. Some of the recognitions that we have received over the period. So thank you for listening to my conversation, and happy to take any questions. Again, I would like to re-emphasize that we are here only because of you, and your contribution to safeguarding India's sovereignty is indispensable, and we thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mr. Leo, for a very.
These are the products I was talking about. These are used in a situation where it can demonstration of how it can be used in a gunshot wound. So this is the 100% chitosan dot I mentioned, which can be used in the entry wound as well as on the exit wound, along with the patch that we have, which comes like this, and it needs very minimal training to use it on, because you can just press it inside, and with a bleeding wound, it will stick on its own. You can take your hand off, it will stick its right on it. So we developed it so that it can be used with a very minimal training for the Jawans, and we request BJFMS and all the armed forces listening to kindly share your experience and feedback so that we can improve them and develop even better technologies as you wish for the betterment of Indian armed forces. And with that, let me conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leo. Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. And yes, it is on the basis of Atmanirbharta that you have made a totally Indian product registered by US FDA. So, it is a wonderful achievement. And let me tell you what you have done is a human service for the armed forces medical services. But as you know, that the armed forces follows evidence-based medicine. So they would like to experiment with everything that you throw at them in their actual on-ground situation and then come out with the results. There are a few questions waiting for you in the question box. So you'll have to please wait till the completion of the session. I will ask you the questions after the completion of the session. But the bottom line that you said was that to control hemorrhage, which is the first part of the CABCDE, is control hemorrhage. That has gone home. It is clear that you have to control hemorrhage to save life. And as I stated earlier in the opening part of my presentation, that most of the causes of preventable, there are 60%, and you have
maybe I can answer one of the questions you have posed, Lieutenant General Madhur. I see that you have experience using our product. Yes. I think the adhesion which happens with the blood is very strong. It is designed to have that adhesion. But it can be removed by using saline instead of, maybe if water is not enough, maybe saline solution will be faster
Yeah.
in breaking the bond between the dressing and the.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Leo. It was a very nice, very enlightening presentation. We have got Mr. Panav Shetty with us. He had actually spoken in the previous session, but unfortunately, due to again some technological glitch, he could not show his PowerPoint presentation. So all those who have heard him, they can see his PowerPoint presentation, and those who have not heard him can hear him. Okay, so I request Mr. Panav Shetty to please, but be quick about it because we have already exceeded our time.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Due to the technical issues, we are missed out with the presentation. So I'll just take you in a brief immediately with the presentation. So can someone confirm me the presentation? Is it audible, visible?
Yeah, it is visible.
Yeah. Thank you. So again, as we are one of the major combat medical products inventors in India, and we have been doing it since last 10 years. So I'll just take you to the brief what has happened in the past. As you can see with the figures over here, these are again the casualties which are happened in the warfield. These are the global figures which have been taken up from the global data.
Mr. Pranav, just
Yeah.
sorry for interrupting you. Can you put it on slideshow?
Yeah, sure, I'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. So again, what is worsening the conflict status? So as we are all aware, there is a war in Afghanistan. There are some conflicts between India, Pakistan, and China. There is a war in Yemen. So due to which there are a lot of battle casualties which are happening. So when it comes to India scenario, as we are all aware, there are a lot of issues happening in J&K territory, couple of Northeast territories, and the Red Corridor of Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, and all. So as we see, there are a lot of ID blasts happening in those red corridors areas. There are a lot of gunshot wounds, and to prevent all those things, we have manufactured the individual first aid kits, the basic first aid kits, and the battlefield nursing assistant kits. So when it comes to tourniquet, as everyone is aware, there are a lot of manufacturers globally. There are a lot of, and when it comes to India, we are the only manufacturers. So the most renowned tourniquet is CAT tourniquet. That's the combat application tourniquet, which is being manufactured in US. And the only factor about thing is like it's quite expensive when looking at our Indian scenarios. We need it in bulk quantities, and always the cost of the CAT tourniquet is pretty much high. So across, even we have seen in India a lot of Chinese tourniquet being deployed in the past. The disadvantage of the Chinese tourniquet, they are not reliable. We have seen a lot of failure issues with the devices. They don't have any clinical data with them. They don't have any field data or clinical data, and there is no after-sale support. What we have, the tourniquet is an indigenously Indian made. It's a patented technology again. It is simple to use, and we have got a lot of data where we can show it to you. It's already been tested in the battlefield in the Indian scenario. Apart from that, we are specialized, and we are the only Indian company to make these kind of individual first aid kits, the basic first aid kits, the QRT kits, the BFNA kits. We are the only company to design all these kits, and it's already been approved from the DGF office of the DGFMS as per their PVMS numbers. The advantage of being with Surgiware is like we have got a strong experience of 38 years experience in the medical devices. And as everyone knows about the first field dressings, it is a very old technology which is being used by the armed forces. It was a normal cotton gauze. So recently, as per the specifications of the DGK, we are the India's first makers of next generation first field dressing as per the DGK specification. Our products are being manufactured in ISO 13485 2016 certificate facility, and we are the only member in the medical segment of SIDM, Society of Indian Defence Manufacturers. We have the on-site and on-site sales support as well. What happens is like when the products are being given to the units, the individual battalions, our team member goes there, visit the individual battalion, train the medical officers, train the individual soldiers who are going to use this product, so that we give the products on hands-on training to them. So that whenever there is a casualty, if there is no any body support or if there is no any medical support, the individual soldier has a minimum training. So how a tourniquet has to be used, or how a compression bandage has to be used. We have been extensively sold to Rashtriya Rifles, Para Commandos, UN missions, Marine Commandos, and all the CAPF forces. We have been part of many CMEs which have been across, organized from the office of the DJFMS and DJMS. Recently, we took part in Combat Casualty Care CME, which happened in Pune. So we were part of that, and we were the only company to be part of that CME. And we are very proud to share this news, like during this COVID situation. In the month of March, where none of the Indian companies were manufacturing the PPE kits, we were the only company at that time in the month of March. On 20th March, we had supplied the personal protective gear to the armed forces during the lockdown. We had supplied to a couple of field hospitals and military hospitals in India. So this was the small presentation, and apart from that, I'll just take another 2 minutes to run around the entire range of the combat medical. So this is the entire range of combat medical products what we have. We give a complete solution to the soldiers and the medical officers, like we protect from head to toe. Starting from the head injuries, then the eye, we have the eye shields for the eye injuries. Then we have a chest seal, there is a chest compression, there is a chest dressing, then we have the tourniquets, then we have the universal splint for the bone fracture and dislocation. So this is the Collop chest seal. Again, a very unique product what we have indigenously designed it, especially to use it on the chest when there is a gunshot injury on the chest. Apart from that, we have a universal splint. Again, this is a patented technology. Instead of buying multiple of splints, we have designed a one single splint which is very portable to use. It can be easily be part of the BFNA kits, and it is one single splint which it can be used on the hand and the leg as well. Then this is what the first field dressing I was talking about, and this is the first advanced first field dressing as per the DGK specification, which has been recently been developed, and we are working with the DG office for the procurements. So again, the earlier when you used to look at the first field dressing, it used to come with a normal cotton gauze. So what we have designed is it has a silver nitrate in between the bandage. So what it does is like it protects the wound from the bacteria, and even the clotting technology improvises through the silver nitrate. So this is, I've already spoken about tourniquet in my previous session as well. So again, we have an Indian made tourniquet, and we have been deployed a lot in my previous things. There's a compression bandage for limbs. It comes in multiple sizes. This is the chest abdomen dressing, mainly when there's a blast injury and all, where it can cover up the larger excess on the abdomen part. We have a disposable CPR mask to give the mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. We have a eye shield dressing. Wherever there is an injury on the eye, it can cover up. And we have multiple range of normal dressing just to protect the wound from secondary dressings and all. So we have an individual first aid kit which comes with a PVMS number of 290009, which is being, again, the specifications are from the office of DJFMS. It contains a tourniquet, a compression bandage, and a hemostat dressing into it. So it comes with a PVMS number, and already you can just go through the 290009. The rest of the details will be shared on the handouts. So this is again a basic first aid kit. Again, it comes with a PVMS number, which has got a lot of other products included. Basically, a medical officer or a nursing assistant can carry along with him. So even it was a thought when I personally was visiting J&K territories. So I had seen that a lot of QRT and ROP vehicles, they roam around in the morning sessions or in the night sessions. So these basic first aid kits can be a part of those QRT and ROP vehicles as well. So that whenever, it's not only about the battlefield injuries, but if there is any roadside accidents, as there are all terrain regions, we see a lot of road accidents with the armed forces as well. So these kits can support them to control the bleeding and until and unless the soldier reaches the nearest care. And this is what we are keen to look into, that is the battlefield nursing assistant kit, which is a complete kit which gives the complete solutions from head to toe. We have the tourniquets, we have the chest dressings, gauze dressings, each and everything, which can give the complete solutions from head to toe.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mr. Kunal.
So
Thank
this
you
was
very
my
much.
thanks for the opportunity once again.
Enlightening.
Hope we are covered up with each and every point. So
Yeah. Anything else you want to say?
No, that's it. We are done, and we are open up with the question and answers, and we are again available on the lobby if you want to have a further discussion for next 2 days.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Pranav.
Thank you, sir.
I think you covered the entire spectrum of products that we can use for arresting bleeding and hemorrhages. So, the point was that when we started the session, we started with how to prevent hemorrhage, as the first part of my talk was to prevent hemorrhage and to control hemorrhage rather. For that, I think both Mr. Leo and Mr. Pranav have provided solutions. The DCIT's MET is here because whatever product you make is to be used across the 3 services. So I will request General Madhuri to please take up the case, continue with their studies on it and see what products are useful, what are the drawbacks when used during our combat situation and combat-like situations, so that they can come back, and since they are own indigenous products, you can take corrective measures to improve them further. So it was a wonderful session. I must thank all the 3 speakers for the commitment they have shown and for the ease of presentation they have made it to make it so much understandable to the audience that I do not find significant questions from the audience, which only means 2 things. One is that you have been able to reach out to the audience in such a manner that they have no questions left to ask, and you have been very comprehensive. And the second thing is that probably audience has not paid attention. But I don't think audience would like to hear that. So audience has paid attention and they have understood what you have spoken to them. So I have to put my hands together for all of you for the lucid presentation that you made, and you allowed the audience to get away without asking questions. But I have some questions. So on behalf of the audience, I am asking certain questions. First is to General Madhuri.
Yes.
Okay, General Madhuri, I am not asking a smart question. I am simply asking a question that when will we reach a stage where we will have a tri-service hospital information system so that we can access the database of any patient anywhere and without that transportation of medical records from record office to another place and then to reach the hospital. Just to do upgradation of medical category, we have to wait for records for almost days together, maybe sometimes become months.
Yeah.
So when can we have a tri-service common hospital information management system?
Thank you very much, sir, for that question. But that is in the ICT roadmap where data center. I mean, today we do not have a tri-services military data center. However, the ICT group under the CDS, it's projected and it is expected that in a couple of years from now, there would be a data center with a backup center, which would have a tri-services interoperability and communication capability. In the meantime, since the Air Force and Navy have already have their on the AFNet and the naval network, they already have in place, as you are well aware, and they have it within their hospitals, and these do not talk to each other yet with the Army. The Army's HIMS has had setbacks because, in fact, in lighter vein, I mean, it's such a perfect model that it's like a perfect spouse you keep looking for and hope to have the perfect spouse, but it takes a little long time because the RFP landed up in about 300 pages. So therefore, it's had a setback. So what we've thought is let that continue. In the interim period, what we are looking at is a cloud-based system wherein at least these opinions, when it comes to categorization, discharge summaries, and relevant through a PACS system, relevant radiological investigations which you need to, if they could be uploaded and accessed by individual person. So they would be probably on a NIC server, as I look at it, or a government-approved, MITI approved server, and it would be cloud-based, where limited. So we're not breaching and crossing the firewalls, which would be generated a central server and could be accessed anywhere in the country. I think that is the first step, and we have good ideas coming in. We would take that up within a year.
Okay, yeah. Because why I asked this question was that I was additional DGMS information professional health services in ADGMS.
He's been pushed out
Army,
again.
DGMS Army.
No.
Okay. No, I was there, and I think Madhuri has been pushed out now. Yeah, she are back. Madhuri, can you hear me? I think she's being pushed out. All right. Okay, let us continue. Now, you have seen the question which Madhuri wanted to ask you, Mr. Leo.
Yeah.
Was I think she has asked you that question about the problem in removing the dressing during wound debridement when you use your Exostat.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Leo.
Yeah. I think to begin with, these are the practical to. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. I am having a peculiar time that whomsoever asks a question, he gets locked out.
Okay. Let me.
A staying power.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think as I showed you, the product is pretty much like a dry sponge. Okay. So both these technologies are developed so that you can remove it faster, and that is actually one of the advantage that we talk about. And in certain situations, when the bleeding is profuse, the dressing sticks very strongly to the bleeding. And that in itself is not a bad thing because you are actually getting more stable clot. Absolutely, you need it to be removed quickly. Yeah, we are moving around like a pack of cards now.
Yeah. Okay. I got your point. The only thing is this that we have faced problem in removing the dressing. So maybe you like to put in some adjunct to your product as to how to remove it under these circumstances.
Yeah, so we have actually mentioned it on the pack itself. So the only suggestion we give is if you can keep the pack even after the use, so the surgeon can know by reading the instructions here.
Okay.
Only thing is to apply a lot of saline solution, normal irrigation using saline. So what happens is the dressing is a pH sensitive dressing. So it is acidic pH. When you introduce something basic like saline or water, the bond breaks and the dressing comes off. So and added to that, Air Marshal Dr. Kapoor, for the entire audience, I think one request from industry like ours is we only get responses from the armed forces when we talk in person or when we have a tender, right? The unfortunate part is there is no interface where we can discuss these challenges from the soldiers on the ground. So my request for the organizers would be that even if we have one such interaction once a year, we can take all your challenges and requests and incorporate them in a better way. So I think Indian Armed Forces, that's my request, that can we have more interaction with industry on such aspects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the organizer will pass on your request to the DGFMS and probably you will have more interactions. Mr. Pranav, I have no questions for you because your presentation I've heard twice in both the sessions, session 1 and session 2. Yeah, I know that, when we were young medical officers, we were told there were no use of, don't use tourniquets. Now tourniquets have become one of the mainstay of, combat medical support in the initial stages at least. So thank you very much. Sir, I think it's all for me to say thanks to the organizers and thanks to all the panelists for sparing their valuable time and being with us and sharing your experiences. Indeed, these experiences will help us in taking care of that man who is most important to us, that is our soldier fighting the war in the front line. So thank you all very much. Sir, this session from my side is over, sir. Hand over back to you for anything else that you wish to state, sir.
Thank you, General Pawan Kapoor. Thank you, General Collector, thank you, Mr. Pawan Shetty. Thank you, Thank you very much. It's been very interesting listening to you. I'm educated. I have very little knowledge of the medical, except for being a patient for many months together. So that's all I'll say. Thank you very much. Very interesting. I think the takeaways will be good. What we'll do is we'll have based on whatever we gleaned out here, we'll make an approach paper and we'll send to headquarter ideas and Distance Medical. Let's propagate what's been spoken about the technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
The next session starts at 2:30 p.m.
Thank you very much indeed for your time
And
and thank you.